Eternal God and kind Father, we thank you very much for all that you've done for us. You've shown yourself faithful for 12 months in the year of 2022. We're asking you to show yourself faithful tonight on the decisions and plans that our mayor and city council and their assistants have made. We ask you to bless our mayor and the city council. Give them direction going into the new year. We want to pray for our departing city councilman, Mike Thompson, that you would give him the high road and give him discernment as he goes to Topeka. Lord, as the year comes to an end, teach us to love one another as you have loved us. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Microphone.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. First item of which is the citizens' concerns about items not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone that would like to stand and bring forward anything to the council this evening? Seeing none, I'd move forward with the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening includes minutes of the November 28th, 2022 City Council meeting, claims for city operations, write-off of uncollected accounts, resolution of write-off uncollected account payable warrants, license renewals for cereal malt beverage licenses, 2023 contract extensions for mill levy services, and North Park Lake Cooperative Fishing Assessment Agreement. Is there anything to be pulled by city staff? Citizens? Questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
So moved by Mr. Reeves and seconded by Mr. Stevens. Vote please.
Shannon?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood? Yes. Gurley? Yes. Kip?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to new business this evening, the first of which is to have a public hearing for the 2022 budget amendments. I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the 2022 budget amendments beginning at 7:36. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. The public hearing is open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tilly LaPlante, Finance Director. Tonight's public hearing is, we have 3 funds that we need to amend because they will exceed our budget that was approved last August for the 2022 budget. The first one is the Park Dedication Fund, and that's the council approved earlier, I think about a month ago, to purchase the fitness court, as there was a grant that we received, and the rest of that, we've got money in the Park Dedication Fund, and that was approved to spend through that fund. The Bonner Springs Center city contribution is the SID district up by the McDonald's area and the hardware store, and that's anticipated to possibly go over what we will need to pay to the developer in sales tax. And then the cemetery, we had Sexton Monument repaired, and that came in higher than expected, and the overage for that is being contributed by the trust fund, and the Historical Society made a donation, but we still have to amend the expenditures to be able to spend that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any other staff? We'll start with questions, concerns, comments down here.
Nothing else here.
Nothing here.
Nothing. Nothing.
Very good. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing at 7:39.
So moved.
Second.
Probably should have asked for citizens' comments. Looking back into the past, seeing none, we'll keep on going.
Do we need a vote on that motion?
Yeah, the motion was made by
Mr. Shannon?
Mr. Shannon and seconded by Mr. Stevens. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. On to item number 2, approving the 2022 budget amendments. Let's get a motion on the floor. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the 2022 budget amendments.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Shannon and seconded by Mr. Reeves. Staff? Nothing else? Nobody else? Any citizens? Seeing none. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none? Vote, please.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Gurley? Yes. Reeves?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to ordinance, item number 3, an ordinance amending the city code chapter XVI utilities, Article 1, Section 120, penalty for delinquent payment. Staff?
Before you today is an update to the city code for utility payments. We have been working for some time now to remove city fees out of ordinance and rather place them into the fee schedule. So this is in effect all that that's doing is taking the language of having a fee set by ordinance and putting it into the fee schedule, which is up for review and approval later on in tonight's agenda.
Very good. Any citizens or other staff? No other staff? Citizens' comments, concerns, questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 16 Utilities, Article 1, General Provisions and Utility Administration. Is it Section 12 or Section 120, please? 120. Thank you. Section 120, penalty for delinquent payment as presented.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Gurley, seconded by Mr. Thompson, and we'll start right here with questions, concerns, comments.
This is a regular thing that moves ahead, isn't it? Just it's one of those things that get done, and we should not worry about it. Yeah,
Just moving
because
it
I
from
read
one
it
place
and
to
read it.
another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what okay. No, I have no more questions.
Nothing here. I don't know if this is the proper place to bring this up or on item 5, because I want to bring up what I think should be an exception for residential late fees on utilities.
I would say that conversation is probably best for the actual setting of the fees. So that is item 5 on tonight's agenda.
Okay,
This is just simply taking the language and saying we're going to approve it by fee schedule.
and I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to miss the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Sir? Sir? Nothing? No other questions, concerns, comments? Could I have a vote on item number 3, please?
Stevens?
Yes.
Gurley? Yes. Wood?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to item number 4, which is salary ordinance. Staff?
Before you tonight is an ordinance to amend, or rather replace the existing pay plan and put into place a new one. The new pay plan has the same general structure as the previous one, with a range of about 42.6% between step 1 and ultimately step 13, or in this new plan, it would just be the minimum and then the maximum. This reflects the City Council's 3% adjustment and incorporates positions that were budgeted for within the 2023 budget to include the fire department, and then make some market corrections for positions, most notably within the utility department. So happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me. Thank you. Any other staff? Citizens, questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the 2023 salary ordinance to fix a range of salaries for city employees.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Stevens and seconded by Mr. Shannon. We'll start right here. Mr. Thompson, do you have any questions? Sir? Ma'am?
Nothing here.
None here.
Recognizing we just went over the majority of this in our workshop, so that makes it pretty easy. Thank you for a great workshop. Seeing no other questions, concerns, comments, vote please.
Kip?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Gurley? Yes. Stevens?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to item number 5, a resolution to approve city fee updates for 2022. Staff again.
We review our city fees annually. I send out an email to the department heads to review their fees for the departments, and they send back the updates that are needed. There's one final update that came in after the agenda was published, and that is for under the utilities listing for the stormwater non-residential fee. The change was listed as changing to $10.10 a month, and that should actually be $11 a month. Other than that, everything is listed out in the PDFs that are attached to the agenda. That was for stormwater non-residential fee under the utilities. Department heads are here as well, if you have any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Any other staff?
I just,
Department? Go ahead.
just one more, we've talked about this previously, but on the fee schedule, we also set the solid waste rate. We have been working, for those that don't know, or just bears repeating, we contract, or we have an agreement with Unified Government to effectively piggyback on their contract with Waste Management now. Some of the fees that we've historically been charged in services that we were, for lack of a better term, signed up for, we had the opportunity to cease those things. So the rate that is shown is a reduction of the solid waste fee overall from what we've paid historically. Because of those changes, I did notify the Unified Government that we intended to do that, and asked them to, if there was any concern with that, to let me know. I did talk with them late last week. They hadn't necessarily reached a conclusion on it, but the reason that I'm bringing it up now is that every 4 years we have the opportunity to cease participation in those services. So this is one of those 4th years, so it was important to get all of that squared away now. So just want to be clear on that, that's the reason for that change, and I hope that there's nothing more that comes from that, but want to make sure that you're all aware of it.
Very good. Any other questions, concerns, comment from staff? Citizens? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the a resolution amending the city fee schedule for, as proposed, effective January 1st, 2023.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Moved by Mr. Reeves, seconded by Mr. Stevens. Questions, concerns, comments, and we'll start down here.
Yes, I would be interested in finding out why we have to raise the residential utility penalty to 10%. Is 5% not enough? I feel like our residences are already feeling the bite on our utility fees, and somebody comes in a day or two late, and we hit them for 10%, that just throws a little bit of gasoline on the fire, I think. I think we ought to leave the residential fee anyway, if not others, at the 5%. Any other comments on that, toward that?
Yeah. Do you have a answer as to why it is being raised, or
Yeah,
do you have
so-
some information on that?
Yep, so the first part was that, this goes back to the previous conversation we had about door hangers. We started looking at the door hangers. Right now, I think it's $15 is what we charge for a door hanger to go on to a residence if they're pending shut-off. So we were looking to remove that particular door hanger and thus lose the $15. So that started to make us kind of look at exactly what our fees were ultimately and what other entities do. So the Finance Department went through and did a little bit of a survey on a whole bunch of different things, but this was one where we found that we were a little low compared to other folks. And then again, recognizing that we're going to have some loss in revenue, assumably, with the door hangers. This was a kind of a way to deal with both issues. Just by way of example, Baldwin City is 10%, Edgerton is 10%, Tonganoxie is 10%, Gardner is 10%, Basehor is 10%, Lansing is 15%. There's several that are also 5% as well. Water One is 5%, Olathe is 5%. So again, it was looked at because of that reason, first and foremost, and then ultimately, through that review, we found that we were a little light compared to other folks too, so.
My concern there is not so much with the people that are in jeopardy of having their water shut off as the person that comes in a day or two late. And, those people I think we need to kind of take care of a little bit. Yeah, 10% for once it goes past a week or two or whatever, and people are just thumbing their nose at us, sure. But if somebody's just coming in a day or two late, or a few days late, I think we need to give them a little more benefit of the doubt.
He brings up a good point. The question then would become from the building department, what type of additional work does that put on them? What kind of onus does that put on them to have a two-phased?
Well, I think you get into an equity issue pretty quickly by choosing who gets to not pay the penalty. Ultimately, the due date is listed on the bill, and once you're late, you're late. Now, are there exceptions to that in circumstances that, the billing side of things takes into consideration? Sure, we get that, but I don't know if we want to set having two different rates. I mean, the due date's the due date. Ultimately, I don't know, Tilly, if you have anything else you want to.
As far as usually if someone is a good payer and they get penalized because, hey, I forgot and missed, we'll usually do a one-time penalty waiver. So, but, if it's consistent, I think, like as Sean said, we're going to be losing revenue from the termination notice charges, and so that was why we looked at what other cities were charging for it. But someone who just is a good payer, I've done it had called utility companies and said, hey, I missed this payment, and most of them do that, and we also will do that, not on a consistent basis, but we'll look back and see that they've had a good payment history and do a one-time waive for them, so.
What's the average residential utility bill? $100?
I think mine's about 130.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
it's
know.
the difference between
But
$6.50 and $13.
But I think it's also good that the city will, the person who, I forgot, or it's in my pocketbook, yeah, I've done that also.
Yeah.
You understand, and, you know, I think that's a good thing.
So again, there is a certain amount of discretion that goes into it, ultimately, like Tilly had mentioned, so.
All right. Other questions, sir? Or concerns? Yep. Anything
Nothing
else? No?
Tilly, the thing comes to mind on, frequent flyers, which I know we have them. And I think Bob brought up a good question, a good concern. And, but I also feel that what you and Sean have alluded to, I don't like to see anything go up where there's penalties involved, any more than anybody else does. But I guess I might be the exception, and I'm very glad I am, that I've got a wife that, honey, water bills due, take it down, and we may spend 50 cents in gas to bring a thing down rather than put it in the mail, so, but I feel that, yes, there are extenuating circumstances, and I know when my wife did this for many, many years with the city, and that people that do take responsibility for results and may be going through a difficult time or something like that, for the most part, did make an effort to come in or to let let you folks know. But I think it's, people know that their bills are there. They know that they have certain dates that they have to pay them on. And yes, we all forget. I get that. But as I said, I don't like to see anything go up. But I do feel that we've saved a lot of staff time and stuff by eliminating the door hangers. And I see the need for this, to not necessarily take its place. But I think that pretty much you didn't say anything, but I can see by the look on your face that it's a very difficult stepping stone to walk across. But
And I think I mentioned it last time, if people are struggling to pay their bill on time, we always refer them to Von Trent, who helps with utility assistance, that if, they can make that one payment for them and then they can get to where they're able to pay it on time. So we do that a lot with
do you have
people
anybody
who,
that has arranged with you maybe to make some payments to, for a short period of time to get through?
we do that if someone has a large bill, we will do that a lot, or it's not really in the policy, but we've had the practice of doing extensions twice a year for people. We kind of, at one point, we were doing extensions and people were just calling every month, and it was a lot of staff time. So, like I said, it's not in the policy to do that, but we've kind of taken that twice a year, if they need to, hey, I can't pay it, and we'll do an extension for them.
So there are options available to them. Pardon me? Grace abounds, right. That's the neat
How
part
much
about
money are we talking annually? Any idea? Ballpark for the door hangers versus
The door
penalty
hangers,
fees?
I think, are about 21,000. And I think when I looked at penalties, because doubling it would be about 40,000.
So 40,000 prior going forward.
Right now, we take in about 40,000 a year for penalties.
So if we
And we
double it, it'll
take in
be,
about 21,000 for the door hangers. So we would be taking another 40,000 in and losing 21.
instead of from 5 to 10, if you went 7.5, you'd be almost a wash.
It concerns me just looking at it as revenue rather than, if it increases staff load, if it increases problems, revenue doesn't, I don't want to look at it as a revenue source as much as, hey, if we're sending our staff and making them work a lot harder, then yeah, absolutely. I want to be compensated. So that's why I'm a little bit confused on it.
Well, we're doing away with staff work. They're not doing the door hangers now,
I know, but
and we charge for that, and so
if we're not charging for that,
we're
should
not
let
doing
that
it.
revenue go, though.
Right, there's no cost
Trying to increase the revenue on the fees to make up for labor we're not doing.
right.
That's where I'm.
But I believe, Tilly, that you mentioned, and as along with Sean, that was our definite concern about our employees having to go up to a home or up to a person, wherever they may be. And I think that in and of itself, to protect our staff, is, to me, is paramount. I agree with Mark on that. I don't like to look at it as a financially, and I don't think we're necessarily looking at it. I'm more concerned on the safety of our employees and what's best.
Well, and so, obviously, the other part of that is by increasing the penalty, your hope would be that more people pay it on time. So again, this all kind of started with the review of the door hanger. Through that, and we started looking at credit card fees and who charges a credit card fee. Right now, we absorb a pretty significant amount of that because we don't pass that along. But again, we did find that we, I guess I went through the cities as far as what they're charging. But again, the ultimate hope is that we don't have to charge anybody a penalty and that people pay it on time ultimately.
Is there a way to stair step it if you're 7 days and later 5% and over that 10, or is that a logistical nightmare for you guys?
I think that's-
I don't know.
That was my question.
Yeah, I don't,
He tugged on my heartstrings about, if you're 1 day late, that's a
Yep.
hammer.
Yep.
Versus, if you're 25 days late, that's.
Well,
that would
that's
just be an
guilty.
extra step and more administrative.
It's not something that in the computer program or something that can be.
No, I mean, yeah. I don't know of any cities that do a double penalty thing.
Yeah. I think part of it too is that if the question is more related to the policy of the city for how to deal with these things, that's maybe a review that if you guys want to discuss that and have a more robust conversation about how you want to handle penalties generally, how do we want to deal with shutoffs? Those are ordinances ultimately, so the ordinance sets the time frame to it. Like Tilly had mentioned, we do have some policies and we do have some historic practices, but if that's something you all would like to dive deeper into, we could certainly come back and have a workshop about that too.
Well, I kind of like what the mayor was saying about do we look at maybe instead of going 10%, 7.5%, which still adds a little sting to it, but it helps it. It doesn't become that revenue source. It really is more of it doesn't change that revenue flow. I'd be open to something like that.
My concern was basically for the people that are basically paying their bills, and they see that, if it comes out there and it says 10%, and then, so they come up to pay their water bill, and then you hit them for the extra 10%. Well, if we can depend on that they're coming up, just a few days afterward, and you're gonna help take care of them, that's fine. But if, you're not there that day,
Well, I mean, it's usually, our staff know that if they've got a good payment history, that they'll usually say,
And they're aware what the
I'll
amount's
ask our
gonna-
supervisor,
I
but
don't
they know that that's what we're gonna do.
But the customer also is aware of what the past due amount's gonna be, because it's
Right.
right there on the bill, so it's.
Yeah, so at that point, they'll say, well, if it's gonna be 10%, I'll just wait till next month.
Or they may say if it's gonna be 10%, maybe I'll pay it on time this time. I mean, that's what we're,
Tilly, has there
hoping.
been any, off the top of your head, has there been any situations that our city has incurred where there's been, the delivery of the bills has been erratic? Or is everything pretty much consistent?
I think it's pretty consistent. We have a outside company that does our
Okay,
mailings, and several customers get them by email now. So that's an option where they get them the day we bill them, they're getting it as an email. And some of them get it both ways, so.
right. I didn't think there was. I know that there's always, occasional thing where something doesn't get delivered on time, but I felt like it's been very, very consistent, so.
As a side note, you mentioned about the email. I will tell you this, I didn't get my email this month.
There is, we thought it was Gmail accounts.
And
I don't-
it's a
okay.
Gmail again.
Yeah, we just discovered that with this billing, that there was something with our old server switching to our new server, so we just talked about that today,
Right.
so.
Now, my question would be then is what do you do in an instance where a person is
If
only
it's-
getting electronic and fails to get their bill?
Then we would waive any penalty. I mean, yeah, if that's something that we know, that's the only way they're getting it, then, yeah, we would waive it.
You said we're eating the credit card charges, because there's a processing fee on there of some sort, but that doesn't cover the amount, or what is the? There's a little,
We don't pass on,
$1.25 fee or something.
cities, governments are allowed to pass along credit card fees. We do not, so,
Is there a reason we don't?
because.
Just, I mean, that's something that a lot of things they charge you. You know, if you pay cash or credit, I mean, you get that.
Yeah, and
Versus
that's,
the debit cards, that's something we.
that
can
was
add to
part of,
revenue.
that was part of that review, is trying to figure out, going through and surveying all the different utilities, what is your, are you charging for the credit cards? What's your penalty fee? Do you do door hangers? The whole gambit. So, there's not probably a rhyme or a reason. It starts to get into some practical applications because, American Express is going to be a 4% charge versus a Visa that's going to be 2.5%. How do you deal with that? And we're doing that review right now. But as you could imagine, as more and more people are paying by credit card than ever before, and we're trying to do this too through things like municipal court, paying a permit for building codes, all that stuff. So, yeah,
It becomes a big number.
it's slowly but surely, yep.
Thanks.
Do you have anything?
I just,
I'm sorry.
I guess I'm done.
Nothing else now? Okay.
I'm still waffling on that 10. I'm more comfortable, I think, at the 7.5 because it feels like it's a wash rather than a source of revenue.
And the penalty fee would not go into effect till April 1, the change.
We've had so many rate changes and things, and we're not done yet, so I'm trying to be cognizant of all of those pennies.
I
Can we,
kind of think that's a good idea. Good point there.
Sure.
Sean just mentioned something, this is kind of interesting. We do have people paying by credit card, did you say? Okay. So we're looking at 5%, increasing it to 10 or to 7.5. And yet, they're paying by a credit card and they're paying 4% and not thinking anything about it.
No, they're not paying the
The city's
4%.
paying
We're paying the
I mean,
4%.
Yeah, we're paying, I'm sorry, yeah.
Or 2%, and I would
So,
imagine rarely does
We
somebody
could really,
use that.
could really get into this and do a comparative study on how much we're absorbing, by credit cards, and we're going more and more to credit cards.
There's lots of people who pay by debit and credit card.
Okay. What,
People pay by credit cards to avoid penalties, probably.
Does debit have the same fee as a credit card? Debit card?
You know, when we get our statement, there's a list like that. There's a Visa debit and a Visa Plus credit. I mean, there's just,
There's swipe fees, so anytime you're swiping, it goes to a
If
whole.
you're not putting your code in, then it's a
Yeah.
slight fee, so it's more. Is that right?
I think even if
There's
you're
just-
putting your code in, even if you did a debit, you're still, yeah, it's still going through a third-party processor, I think is ultimately the case. And again, you know, on average, I think it's probably somewhere around 3%, once you factor in, because again, you know, Visa, MasterCard, all of them, Discovery, everybody has their own fee, so that's what makes it somewhat of a challenge, is how do you say, this is what it's gonna be on the upfront to a customer coming in?
because you can't charge more than what you're being charged, so it gets challenging. But that's, yeah, we've done some surveys, and there's some cities that do it and some that don't.
Tilly, I wouldn't expect you to be able to have this kind of information. Maybe just a very big ballpark. What do you think our city is absorbing,
Fees,
on the credit card? We're absorbing that cost
probably 60,000.
a year?
That's just utility,
No,
That's
that's everything. That's
court.
all utilities, ambulance, and we don't take credit cards for everything. Community center, rec fees.
So a really large municipality, they're eating those as well?
Yeah, or sometimes
Lots
you're
of-
factoring it into, you're factoring into your cost, so you just know you're gonna have to increase it by 3% to cover that, so. Which we haven't gone through that exercise
There's
yet.
pros and cons. I mean, paying with the card is more efficient for when we're not handling cash and checks and deposits, and so and people can pay online using credit cards, and so it's without having to come in here. If somebody doesn't want to pay the processing fee, then they're gonna come in here and we're gonna handle a check or cash and deposits. So there's pros and cons to it, so,
Is there a fee for ACH for a check?
no.
So that's the dream zone there, is to get everybody to do
Yep.
that.
I mean, but you have to know that your money's gonna be in the account, so you know,
Oh, because
it auto pulls on the due date.
if you go in, you can't just put your checking account in and then use that as a form of payment rather than the debit or credit card.
You can't do it straight from a bank account, but you could use a debit card, but there's a fee for that. The ACH is just, it's like me, because I don't want to have to remember to pay. So I know on the due date, I get the bill, and I know what's going to come out, and I know when it's going to come out. So, and there's no fee for that.
But our website can't be set up to put the checking account information. Because I know I pay bills like that with my checking account information in there, but it's not auto-deducted. I still have to click and choose it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I talking Chinese? Yeah, the routing and
Yours is like
IBA stuff.
We don't have it direct from a bank account and I don't know if,
I just didn't know if that's part of the software that we could get.
yeah, I'm not
or
sure,
If that would help us.
yeah. I don't know if there's that option. I don't think there was when we started. I could check on it.
You good?
Do we have any interest in the 7.5%?
I was just gonna say is that, if,
There's a motion and a second.
I'd like to go back and, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to amend the current motion
A friendly
to
amendment.
add with the exception of the penalty fee, only raising it from 5% to 7.5%.
Residential.
No, it would be applied to everybody, I believe, wouldn't it?
It's to
That'd be effective across for all.
It's to everybody. So, just, I think there's 4 different penalties on there for stormwater, refuse, water, and sewer. So, commercial gets penalized as well, so.
That's fine with me.
Second it then.
Second.
So an amendment to the motion was made and seconded, made by Mr. Stevens and seconded by Mr. Reeves, who both started the motion. Other questions, concerns, comments on that?
Well, we need to vote, I think, on this motion first, on the amendment. Correct?
Do we need to discuss the amendment?
I believe what we need to do is that Bob needs to rescind his motion, his original motion.
Friendly amendment.
Did you rescind your original motion?
Other than just saying, I rescind my original motion.
And then can you restate your motion, please, Tom?
Yes, so, and
Okay.
I need to withdraw my second?
Yes.
Okay, I'll withdraw my second. And so then I'd like to make a motion to approve to approve a resolution amending the city fee schedule as proposed effective January 1st, 2023, with the exception of the penalty fee and only raising it from 5% to 7.5%.
Second.
Moved and
Now we
seconded.
can,
Now, any other discussion concerning that? Seeing none, vote please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Gurley,
Yes.
Reeves,
Yes.
Shannon,
No.
Wood,
Yes.
Hipp,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
The motion is to make a motion to approve a resolution amending the city fee schedule as proposed, effective January 1st, 2023, with the exception of raising the penalty fee to 7.5%. And it passed.
On to item number 6, a resolution setting a hearing for 112 through 120 Oak Street. 112 and 120 Oak Street? 112 through 1.
Through.
Amber Fogan, Assistant City
Yes, please.
Manager. Yes, it's the 112 through 120. It's the two buildings where Thriftway and Dollar General used to be. This resolution essentially says that it's a dilapidated building, it's unsafe, and it sets a hearing for those owners to come in and make a case if they feel that it shouldn't be deemed as unsafe or repaired or come down. So this sets the hearing for February 13th. They've been made aware of it, they're fine with it. They know that it needs to come down. City staff has worked with them and previous owners, and unfortunately, everything hasn't fallen into place for those plans to develop. But staff continues to work with them, and we will continue to work with them through this process to try to find a middle-of-the-road solution. We'd much rather have them take it down and have development plan than us have to go through this process, and I'm sure they'd feel the same way. But Megan Gilliland, our Economic Development Coordinator, had Randy Speaker with the state come in and talk with the owners about some redevelopment options, and they seemed pretty excited about some of those options, so we're having another meeting later on this week to further discuss those. So, but this gets the process in motion so that we can continue on.
Very good. Any other staff input? Questions, concerns, comments from the citizens? Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution setting a public hearing at 7:30 PM on February 13th, 2023, to determine why the structure located at 112 through 120 Oak Street should not be condemned and ordered repaired or demolished.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Wood and seconded by Mr. Thompson. Questions, concerns, comments? We'll start down here with Mr. Shannon.
No, I'd like to know if we're gonna take the similar path for Nettleton and Metropolitan, but that's a separate topic.
Nothing.
Not this time, wait for the meeting, public hearing.
Yeah, I'm interested in Metropolitan Building also.
No other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, vote please.
Shannon,
Yes.
Reeves,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
Gurley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to item number 7. Thank you very much. On to item number 7, Canaan Traffic, K7 and Canaan Traffic Lights Repair Contract Approval. Staff?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Frank Abart, Public Works. So as you may recall, back towards the end of August, there was an errant vehicle that did some damage at the intersection of Canaan and K7. We spent probably, a month or so pulling ourselves together on that, putting up temporary signals and getting an agreement together and actually having an agreeable discussion, let's call it that, with KDOT and everybody else about where we were going to head next. So about a month later in September, we were before you to get an approval on an engineering agreement so that we could get the design put together so that we could pursue the final repair to this particular intersection. And over the course of about the last 3 months now, we've come to that point where we finally have a set of plans that KDOT will approve, and we've done some direct negotiations with our preferred vendor, which is Total Electric. They are the ones who did the repair. They're the ones that do the repair on all of our traffic signals, and they would be our preferred vendor to try and perform this work. They've given us a price, $169,439, and in the interest of moving this forward, I would ask for approval of that tonight. The total cost, direct cost to the city is probably going to be in the neighborhood of $19,000. We have a total maximum threshold of $230,000 that the insurance company will pay. So anything over that will come out of a risk management pool that we have internally here with the city. I think that's all I have in summary.
Thank you very much. Any other staff? None. Citizens? Very good. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the contract with Total Electric to complete repairs of the traffic control signals at K7 and Canaan intersection for the amount of $169,439.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Stevens and seconded by Mr. Shannon. We'll start right here again with questions.
No
Okay,
questions.
ma'am?
Do I understand correctly that risk management fund is a self-insurance vehicle, basically? The city self-insures for events like this?
We carry a fund for items that insurance doesn't cover or for deductibles and things of that nature. And I'll pause there to see if anybody's, okay.
It's just a budgeted fund. It's the risk management fund is what it is. I can't remember where it's roughly at. It's a little over $100,000. So we zero-base budget that and just assume that we're going to spend it all for incidences like this.
Perfect. I just kind of wanted to put that into words for anybody who's listening so that it's not an amount that's coming out of our operating budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the base insurance is not the car that hit it.
That is up to the insurance carrier, our insurance carrier, to pursue that with those individuals who did the damage. I'm under the impression that they probably aren't because they don't carry enough insurance or something.
Okay. And is that Total Electric, is that the red trucks that have Total Electric, the big company, or is that a local?
They were based in Edwardsville, and now I think they're in Baser.
Okay.
If that helps. I don't know what color their trucks are, sorry.
It's Capital, he corrected me.
Oh,
Capital
okay.
Electric.
Oh,
They got
okay.
trucks everywhere.
That was kind of where I was kind of wondering about the insurance, because the specification about the insurance carrier, but that is our insurance carrier that you're saying is only covering it for $230,000?
That's correct.
If it goes over, even though it comes out of the risk management fund, is it still possible to go back towards the driver's, that company's insurance, that company to make us whole on the risk management fund portion of it?
In my opinion, not being an insurance expert.
Right.
In my opinion, that is always an option, but it's not really up to us. It's up to our insurance carrier, MPR, and whoever else has made that decision, whether it's going to be worth them pursuing it or not. And
Okay.
it does not look to me like they're going to try, because I don't think they feel.
Because I didn't know if this would harm down the road our standing with the insurance carrier, if all of a sudden we're going to get dinged because of that additional claim.
That's
And,
possible. I
and
mean,
when it's not
we-
our residents'
we-
fault.
We
That's-
certainly would rather have not had that happen, but.
Well, the insurance MPR, our insurance, will go and try to collect as much as they can off of the offender in this case. However, they're only going to carry a certain amount of insurance themselves. So that's, so and I don't know for this particular claim how much they have, but let's just say it's $50,000. They'll collect the $50,000 from the insurance provider, the individual's insurance provider, but the rest of it, to Frank's point, that's the question of, is the juice worth the squeeze as far as going after this and dealing with that, and that's MPR's purview. To your point about our premiums, this will more than likely, anytime that we draw off of our insurance, that increases our modification factor as far as claims against us. So it's not good to have these things happen, but it is what it is ultimately.
Okay. Thank you.
Nothing else.
Sure.
Nothing else.
Nothing? Seeing no other questions, concerns, comments, vote please.
Voting on a motion to approve the contract with Total Electric to complete repair of the traffic control signals at K7 and Canaan intersection for the amount of $169,439. Gurley?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good.
Thank you.
When will that be done?
I'm still thinking it's going to be July.
Really? My goodness.
I mean, that's the idea of trying to hurry up as fast as we can here. There's going to be at least a 4-month lead time on those poles and stuff.
Interesting.
So
Will that be-
it'll be April before those even, that's if you've done your part, now I got to do my part and get the contract signed and all
I
that.
thought it was going to be a long time from what you said before, back when it
Yeah.
was.
Will that be similar lane closures and things that, like we went through, putting up the temporary signal?
Well, hopefully there won't be as much interruption. They'll be able to do this while the other lights are in operation, so.
Thank you.
Not as much surprise this time. They know what they're doing, so. Thanks.
On to item number 8, an intergovernmental local agreement with Eastern Kansas Multi-County Task Force. Staff.
Chris Jennings, Bonner Springs Fire EMS. Sorry for the long name, I did not come up with it. So as we're professionalizing the fire department, one of the things we're working on is making sure that we have our partnership agreements in place with our surrounding agencies. This is one of those agreements that was actually signed by the city several years ago. There's been a lot of updated verbiage, and as we've started more cooperation, this was one of the ones that kind of came to our attention. So what this is focusing on is simply leveraging some of the specialized assets that we have in the metro region, some of those including some of the arson detection dogs, things that we don't have here in the city, and leveraging those. So that's what the purpose of this agreement is. It's also a cooperative agreement where we share information related to some of the threats that are out there, just to keep ourselves abreast of what's going on in our local communities.
Is that it?
That's it.
Very good, thank you. Other staff? Citizens, questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion authorizing the city manager to sign the Eastern Kansas Multi-County Task Force interlocal agreement.
Well said.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Shannon and seconded by Mrs. Woods, and we'll start down here. Mr. Shannon?
No, I don't have.
I was impressed by how much, if we work together, it'll work.
Nothing here.
Nope, all right, very good. Seeing nothing else, vote please.
Kip,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Gurley,
Yes.
Reeves.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. Congratulations. On to item number 9, which is the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Affiliation Agreement. Sir?
Another step in the direction of maintaining relationships out in our community. This is an agreement to work with Kansas City Community College as we're looking for establishing, I hate to use the term brand, but the brand of our department for attracting future employees. This gets us out there to actually see some of these employees and gets our staff involved with training as well as seeing what's actually being produced by the colleges. This provides just another avenue for us for that development. It also opens up, almost more importantly, a lot of avenues for some additional grant narratives, which have been pretty successful for us. That moving towards finding employment for next generation of employees has a lot of opportunity out there right now.
Absolutely. Very good. Other staff? Citizens? Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with KCK Community College for EMS training partnership.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Woods and second by Mr. Shannon. We'll start down here with Mrs. Woods.
Such a wonderful, wonderful idea for so many reasons. Thank you.
As part of their studies, supplying them with any needed equipment as they come in to do ride-alongs?
No, everything's provided through the college for this. Part of a paramedic's clinical process is ride time. So these are students typically that are at the very end of that program. So they're fairly skilled at this point. So this is ride time to observe and actually have us observing them, helping with these incidents.
Okay, so we're not providing them with any of the equipment that would be
No,
required as part
nothing
of
at all, no.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on this. Looks great.
Yeah, my only comment would be that, again, we're back to staff has provided at no cost some benefit for our community, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
I agree.
Sir? Sir? Very good. Seeing no other questions, concerns, comments, vote please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Gurley,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Reeves,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Kip.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good, congratulations, and if you have an opportunity, you might encourage them to change the name from the Kansas City, Kansas Community College to the Wyandotte County Community College, since everyone in Wyandotte County pays for that. But that's just, I know you have a lot of pull, I know you do, so.
Can we make
Mr. Bear.
can we make a motion on a resolution for that?
I just am asking him, I mean.
Could we start with the arson task force name?
Moving on to number 10, Fire EMS Records Management Software Contract. Staff.
So our record management software is what we use to enter all of our call data and reports. It's also the system that we use for all the ancillary tasks such as scheduling, inventory control, vehicle tracking. The system that we have is not really meeting our current needs. It's falling short on several of the secondary support items. It's very good at a few things, and some other things it's failing pretty badly at. This system is really, quite honestly, it's one of the big competitors to it. We're able to step over to the system, basically start a clean year with this other system. Really no cost between the two systems. The biggest thing that we're seeing shortfalls in is actually the ability to report some of the data that we think is really critical as we move forward. The capturing of some of those metrics is simply just not there with the current software. There's a second part of this request, which is actually a recommendation as well to exceed that balance cost changeover to add in another module. It's called a Community Connect module. This is something unique to this vendor. What that provides us is a web interface to outreach to our community. It allows our businesses to go in there and update their information without us having to individually go to those businesses. So it gets that information updates far more timely. More important than just the business standpoint is the community standpoint. We get constant calls to the station from individuals who want to report something to us. Things that we often hear is status of some pets, some elderly people in homes, or special needs children, such as children with autism. They're trying to provide us a lot of information on how to deal specifically, especially with a child with along the autism spectrum, somebody who has Asperger's or something. There's specific communication methods that work very good for them if we have to go interface with them. It's very challenging for us to document all that and have that in a quick repository for us to adequately pull. This Community Connect module allows those citizens to go in and update and keep that information updated for us, so that as we're responding, the MDTs in our vehicles will actually have that information by address show directly to us. Keeps it secured, reduces our man hours that are required to actually keep that updated, and also gets the community more involved with providing that information that they feel is very relevant to us. And this can include medical histories and drug information for what treatment somebody on, things that are pretty critical for us and during our critical events.
Very good.
I will add, Edwardsville did put the system into place. They're launching it right now as well. So we should beat them to the punch.
There you go.
Sorry.
Any other staff? Citizens? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion authorizing the city manager to sign the contract with the First Due as the hosting provider for fire EMS record management systems as presented.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Shannon and seconded by Mrs. Woods. First question I have is, how does this integrate with our dispatch?
So this module is actually outside of our dispatch. Actually, we had an interesting conversation with one of our KCK members in the back that's actually involved in the pre-plan information. We're trying to figure out how to better integrate some of this between the agencies, as we are starting to see more cooperation between those agencies.
Between what agencies?
What's that?
Between what agencies?
Kansas City, Kansas, Edwardsville, all of our mutual aid partners that we see responding to these incidents. As we start talking some of the larger commercial fires, the ability for a single department to handle that is simply not there. So we start getting into some very critical data that we need to export out. The good side of what we're looking at here is all this information comes in, it's fully exportable in multiple formats. So we're really looking at how can we get this out to other agencies in a format. The one thing I want to caution on, though, is we are providing an avenue for individual members and businesses to put information in. There's some security that we're basically entering into trust with them. So we just want to make sure that we're not just going and distributing information outside of a secure system just for the sake of sharing that. So that's something to explore a little bit more.
I know we've had challenges with the dispatching across the board from the unified government. Do you think that will be a concern?
It has been greatly improved. The dispatching issues that I know of with PD are very different than ours. Our fire side has been very responsive to our needs lately, and we've certainly improved greatly. This is a system that works kind of in conjunction with, it doesn't replace that system. We're still using the CAD system. This is kind of a supplemental information system for that. The CAD system does export all of our run data, so that's our response times, unit numbers, and all that, as well as addresses into that RMS system for the purposes of all of our reports. Right now, that is where the biggest failure with the existing system is, and that's why we're getting a lot of inconsistencies with run numbers, report numbers. So in terms of metrics for true performance data, that becomes challenging for us to relay that accurately.
At one time, there was quite a concern with the information that we expected to receive through that CAD system and what we're actually getting.
Absolutely.
And that's been remedied?
This is remedying the issue. There is a hard issue on the vendor side of the reporting system, not on our dispatch side right now. There is an issue with dispatch being unable to manipulate that data beyond a certain point. However, the vendor is also not willing to manipulate everything or anything beyond that. We already have this new vendor that we're looking at. They're already in a beta launch that's live currently for us, and it's importing that information accurately already. They're able to go in there and write the parsing scripts and pull that data accurately, being in communication already with their dispatch center.
Very good. I'm sorry. Other questions, concerns, comments?
Does the new system allow us to maintain historical data?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Will we have access to the historical data from one system to the other?
So the data that we have, we essentially export that by yearly chunks. So we have that data before this other system goes offline. We basically download and pull all that core data. So that's what we reference for all of our performance benchmarks and standards.
Okay.
The one challenge is, again, is that accuracy of historical data as we try to accuratize that, so to speak. All the reports are in standard formats. There's what's called a National Fire Incident Reporting Standard. That's what we export to a PDF file for each call, and medical calls are similar.
And the $13,900 includes that Community Connect add-on?
It does, yes.
Really relying on you to the due diligence on this. We've been burned before with software inside city council and also in the workplace as well. The promises they make and what it does. So hope you're thorough as you always are, but we're really relying on that because I don't know anything about it. But thank you for your work.
Just real quickly, one comment. I was happy to read in here. I've always been a big proponent of our public services, Mercy Services, working in conjunction with our neighboring agencies. And I was happy to see that Edwardsville is going to be on the same system, because I know you two agencies work really well together.
Correct. There's been some collaborative effort in moving to this point between the two cities so that we do have some commonality. The issue of tracking who's responding when for our calls from them is actually taking a lot of manual work right now. That gets into some later ratings for ISO and everything else, so this alleviates a lot of that work for us.
And, well, hopefully, and also that information that you're talking about, that the residents as well as businesses can enter in, hopefully we can work out some way of arrangement so they'll have access to that data as well. Cause
that's already there.
Good, because if they run on something in our location, it would be helpful for them to have that same information.
Any of the responding units assigned to that call with that system have access to that.
Great, thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Sir?
Did I miss what budget this is coming out of? How it's gonna be paid for? The 39,000? Did I miss that?
For the 13,000?
Well, what it's.
See, I only have this one sheet. I don't have the other.
We're on number 10, Mike.
Oh, sorry.
And it's 13,000. That's okay. It's on there.
Never
It's
mind.
13,900, but it's still, it's coming out of the fire department.
Yeah, this is software that we budget for each year. This is part of our operational software.
Sorry about that.
You're good. You said
I'll
that.
wake up here.
There was nothing.
You'll get it next meeting. You'll get it next meeting.
That's it.
We're gonna take it out of your Senate pay.
Gonna quit and go home.
When you said putting in the information, the individuals, in other words, does that mean that I would put information to you about what kind of information?
If you have a loved one with specific medical concerns that you wanted us to know about prior to our arrival, we literally, on one of our test ones over in Edwardsville that we saw, we had somebody go ahead and put in some information about location of their pet and their concern for their pet and what they were willing to do for preferred vet. So sometimes the challenge can be a lot of information. Sometimes the challenge can be not enough information.
Read it on the way to the.
Yeah, we are probably going to have a little bit more formatting than just block entry for some things to kind of limit some of that information to.
Is there any information on the dwelling itself? Any insights to it, or is it just strictly medical that we're looking at?
So all of that is incorporated into a pre-plan. That is information we work to gather as we're out there in the community doing our, we call safety walkthroughs with our crews. They'll be entering and updating this. A lot of this information's already been captured from our existing inspections. So a lot of that is going to be exported and imported to give us a good jump on structure information and what we call target hazards and stuff within our community.
Any other questions,
Yeah,
concerns,
just
comments,
my,
please?
as a follow-up, I would assume on the business side then, it would be the additional information would be such as what they might store on the premises, such as chemicals,
Yeah,
volatility, those type of things.
Yeah, we'll have tier two reports that we'll receive that we'll upload into the system. Those are references for us, location of those hazards, shutdown procedures. If we have those, we have several businesses in town that have very specific directions for us how to shut a system down, specifically like the bakery. And if it's shut down in the wrong order, it can actually have some pretty costly effects to them. So they can get ahead of that. They like to do that and provide that to us. So we'll do our best with that.
Thank you.
Very good. Other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, vote please.
Voting on a motion authorizing the city manager to sign the contract with First Due as the hosting provider of a fire EMS records management system as presented. Shannon?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Hip?
Yes.
Gurley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to item number 11, awarding a bid for a cardiac monitor.
So this is actually out of our capital fund for this year. This is a replacement for one of the very, very old monitors that's still in the station. Some of these monitors, the old ones, are actually no longer supported by the vendors and also are kind of deprecated by the Food and Drug Administration for care. So we went out to the primary vendors. There's 3 primary vendors for these cardiac monitors. We use the term cardiac monitors are really advanced life support monitors. They're what allows us to do the 12 leads and 15 leads in the field, monitor a whole range of vitals and initiate a whole range of treatments. These are what allow us to be paramedics. The monitors came back. There was quite a spread in the monitors. At the end of the day, every monitor has its strength. There was probably no monitor that totally stood out beyond other monitors, but at the results of the bids that happened kind of determined our recommendation for it. And that was for our vendor C, which is Philips, for the Tempest monitor that came in at a total, including a 5-year service plan, which involves calibration of the machines yearly at $39,355.
Under the budgeted amount.
What's that?
Under the budgeted amount.
Just slightly,
Yeah.
yeah. That, it is under the budget amount when we account for the service plan that extends over the 5 years. That's usually not in the core budget, so.
Very good. Other staff? Citizens, questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to award the cardiac monitor bid for the purchase of one Philips Tempest cardiac monitor system to Furno for a total amount not to exceed $39,355.20.
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Gurley and seconded by Mr. Reeves. We'll start, I guess, we've gone through so many down here with you, sir.
Yeah, this replaces a monitor system that we have.
We have several very old ones right now.
That was my next question. How many do we have, and are we able to still use any of those?
Yes, so this will have a total in the fleet of the 4 primary monitors. So our 2 ambulances, our fire apparatus, and then we have the float one that we use in the supervisor vehicle, whether that's myself or whether we have some of our medics, such as Mike Wim that's here, one of our captains who's in town. If he has one of the vehicles or my vehicle for the weekend, he will be leveraging that monitor for initial response or callback as well.
This is an extremely important piece of equipment, so I want to make sure we aren't, just to go hit that lowest price point, we aren't giving up anything that we really should have.
No, the only thing we're giving up is, honestly, there's preference between all of the medics. In terms of, the honest answer, when you look at them objectively in terms of capabilities, every cardiac monitor meets the absolute need of a paramedic in the field. There's some differences in terms of how you use them, obviously some preference and biases based upon what your background is. However, the price differential between all 3 of them, the choice was pretty clear as to the best value for the city at this point.
Thank you.
Nothing, thanks.
What's the traditional lifespan of one of these monitors?
What's that?
What's the normal lifespan?
Our existing ones are 2004 or 2003, the life packs we have currently. 14, 15. Yeah, and they were already roughly about 10 years. They will tell you, any medical instrument typically has an 8-year service life, is what they expect for the service longevity of it. There's some obsolescence that gets induced by the manufacturers. These new monitors, especially this one, is a little different. This monitor is much more of a, lack of a better term, a glorified tough tablet that then has medical inputs on it as modules, whereas the other monitors are typically focused, produced cardiac monitors, single purpose. So there's maybe a little bit more life expectancy and expansion with this. One of the other decisions in this, we do have one of these monitors already in service that's worked very well without issues, is that some of the other monitors are getting very long in design. They're 10, 12, 13 years old without major changes. This is the newer monitor on the market with several of the other manufacturers about to release other ones, but the timeline for that is completely unknown with the market right now.
That's fine. And what happens to the monitor that's being replaced? Is it just scrapped? Is it parted out?
The best option for it is for us to leverage it for some training right now. There's also some possibility for some grant turn-ins on it as an asset a little bit later. I will just make the comment that the 2 monitors on the ambulance right now as well, we have 2 relatively new monitors. The other one that's within a year. This one will obviously be a new one. There's 2 other ones that are getting at end of life as well. We're pretty hopeful for one of the federal grants to try to help with that. That's really what we're targeting with that. So sometimes having some of these available for the credit turn-in can be very advantageous for us.
Excellent, thank you.
You've asked everything. Thank you for doing all this work.
No other questions, concerns, comments? For those of us that don't have a heart, this will be of no good use, but for everybody else, I'm glad.
Grinch, Grinch, Grinch.
Seeing no other questions, concerns, comments, vote please.
Voting on a motion to award the cardiac monitor bid for the purchase of one Philips Tempus cardiac monitor system to Furno for a total amount not to exceed $39,355.20. Gurley?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep on doing the good work. Item number 12. Well, we can just go ahead and adjourn. Second.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion. I got the right one this time. The right number.
Well, it's with a heavy heart that I introduce item number 12, the acceptance of a council member's resignation. Does anybody want to stop this? No? Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the resignation of Mike Thompson effective after adjournment of the December 19th, 2022 City Council meeting.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded. Concerns, not really questions, but any concerns or comments? We'll start down here.
Been a pleasure, Mike.
You will be missed.
Congrats.
Congratulations and thank you.
It's so funny when something like this comes up and he's been so wonderful. Thank you.
Gonna miss you, buddy. I also will miss you, and I appreciate all that you've done. You've worked very hard as a city councilman. You worked very hard running for your election, your campaign to win a seat in the Kansas legislature, and I'm very proud of you that you will move from here and step up into that seat. Hopefully, they will be as amenable to you as we all are.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I guess we'll have to go ahead and have a vote, please. Yeah, right. We're going to have a... You wanted to make this now?
No, I'll go ahead and make the vote now.
Okay, go ahead.
Voting on a motion to accept the resignation of Mike Thompson effective after the adjournment of the December 19th, 2022 City Council meeting. Shannon?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood?
Sadly, yes.
Gurley?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Stevens?
No.
Reeves?
No.
The motion still passes.
They were counting. They were counting. On to item number 13, which is the appointment of a new council member to the vacant Ward 1 position. Staff?
Chris Briggs, City Clerk. Mayor, the City Code, Chapter 1 Administration, Section 207 states that when there is a vacancy in the governing body, it gives instructions for how it's filled. It says any vacancy of the governing body of the city, either by death, resignation, or otherwise, shall be filled by appointment of the mayor with the approval and consent of the city council, and shall be effective upon such approval or rejection by the governing body at the next regularly scheduled meeting. Any person presently filling such a vacancy or hereafter so appointed and approved shall serve for the balance of the unexpired term of the office of the person vacating such office.
Which will run for approximately a year.
Yes.
1 year. And as has been a precedent set previously, we took applications for those that